Cool. Looks like I'm ready to go. My name is Professor Palmer. Hold on, and let me scoot my mic just a little bit. My name is Professor Palmer. This is Parasite Eve. Say what you will about this game. It's interesting to say the least. I'll be talking through most of it because it is a really slow. It's just slow. That's pretty much the only way to put it. Um, but yeah, if we're all ready, I assume we're ready on time. I'm gonna count down 3, 2, 1, go, and we'll get going. So 3, 2, 1, go. Now there's a couple things to note. The first one is that every cutscene in this game is unskippable, so it is it is annoying to say in the least. Hold on, sorry, I'm screwing my mic around. Yeah, every cutscene in here is unskippable. There's lots of tech smashing, lots of RNG, really terrible hitboxes, some pretty clunky gameplay. And that's pretty much it. I mean, if it doesn't already sound like the greatest speed game you've ever heard, then you just haven't been watching, because it's very interesting. In all seriousness, it does have a lot of it does have a lot of really great like unique gameplay to it. The game was made by Square Enix. It was released right after Final Fantasy VII. It was made to like combat the Resident Evil and Silent Hills and like the horror category. And what they ended up with is like this really clunky horror RPG turn-based thing. It's really strange, but that's why I love it. And like the other runners of it, that's why they run it as well, because it is just so unique. And like even the other games in the series, Parasite Eve 2 and the Third Birthday, even they're not like this game. They went a different direction when they made the sequels. So right here, actually, sorry, my Twitch name is actually Professor_Palmer. If you give me a second, I'll say something in chat. It's my fault that I have it set up so in the way that I do. Like all my different, my speedrun.com, my Twitch, my Discord, like everything's different. My Twitter. 1 second. So right here we have a 3 minute, it's actually 2 minutes, 59 seconds, and 57 milliseconds, this cutscene right here. Usually, this cutscene is over by about 5 minutes and 3 seconds. So in the first 5 minutes of the game, you've seen probably 4 minutes and 30 seconds worth of cutscenes that are unskippable. You've bashed a little bit, you've menued, and you've moved forward. Which is why it's a big reason a lot of people get really frustrated when they have to reset, because if you're going for like a really good time, obviously it's a pretty reset heavy game. If you have to reset within the first hour, it is brutal because there's so much mashing, so many cutscenes. I think I did the math, and of all the runs I have put together, I think I've spent like something like 29-30 hours of my life just watching this 3-minute cutscene. But it is a cool cutscene. If you've not seen it before, I'll be quiet. You can check it out. It's pretty interesting. Very dark. Hey, Jay is my hero. What's up, man? Yeah, I do remember your name, man. It's good to see you. Thanks, my dude. Thank you. Yeah, the estimate I actually gave, so funny story. The fastest way to run this game is on PSP, which I usually do. However, my captures, I just got a brand new capture card, and I hadn't messed around with it and set it up for PSP because I've, taken a break from this game for a little while. And anytime I've played it, it's been in marathons on emulator, which I'm running on now. And my PSP wasn't working. So the estimate I gave is actually like if I end up doing the estimate tonight, it'll be I believe it'll be the fastest time ever done on console. So we have that to look forward to. But it should be close. It should be really close, honestly. It's not a crazy hard time to achieve, even with some of these slower marathon strats. So right there, we just beat the first boss. It's that chair towards the end of the seats. You can get stuck on that chair, and it's awful. You got to reset and watch the 5 minutes worth of cutscenes all over again. Because hitboxes in this game, even though it looks like you're nowhere near it, hitboxes in this game are ridiculous. So we beat the chair. Now we got to beat Eve. Real simple stuff. Hope for good ATB. Get bad ATB. Move forward and just beat her to death with this stick. And because we got bad ATB, we're gonna have to take some damage here. I don't think that was good enough to reset the timer, unfortunately. By taking the damage there, we actually speed up the attack pattern so that we are attacking faster than she is. Because it skips the animation of you swinging. And we do this because it saves probably 4 or 5 seconds at the very end and another hit of damage. But that fight is so early on and can go 3 different ways. You can either kill her in 4 hits, which I've only ever seen once ever. You have to get 4 crits in a row. 5 hits, which is 2 crits, or a 6 hit, which is irrelevant how many crits you get at that point. She'll always die in 6. And we just go chase her down, jump in a hole. Now, one of the interesting things to note about this game is that it's like Final Fantasy VII, which it came out like right immediately afterwards. Square Enix released it. You have to hold circle to run. Circle also is like a confirmation button for like picking up items and things like that. And X also is a confirmation button as well. So utilizing circle as opposed to X is actually a really, really important technique for the game in general, just because of how like the X interaction works with chests and NPCs and things like that. So utilizing the buttons and kind of how you hold your hand while you do the run is 2 pretty important things that kind of take some getting used to. Now this rat can either die in 1 or 2 hits, or 3 if I miss. So it's going to be a 2-hit fight. That's not bad though. If you crit on the first hit, you'll kill it in 1 hit, which is super nice, because if you get a 5-hit Eve fight and then a 1-hit rat, you're like 8 or 9 seconds ahead pretty early on. Another pretty unique thing about this game is that it came out right as Analog was being released for controllers. So because the game was already finished, they couldn't go back and add Analog use. So what they did was just switched how the controller layout works and gave you the option to turn on Analog, but doing so disables your D-pad. So you can only ever use either analog or D-pad, you can't use them both. Now the D-pad works so much better for like 90% of the game, and menuing especially. So I use D-pad. Some people prefer to use analog sticks. I really don't, it doesn't really matter either way, whatever works best for you, but I mean, I could not imagine doing the menus in this game with analog sticks. It's just weird that they made it function in that fashion, where you had to do one or the other. A little bit more mashing, some more cutscenes. So we're 10 minutes in, roughly, and we've watched probably at least 6 minutes of cutscenes at this point, maybe a little bit more. And by 20 minutes in, we're at about 10 minutes of cutscenes to 10 minutes of gameplay. So it's this game is just filled with downtime. So because my ATB was bad right there, I wanted to wait for her to get an attack off before I went to attack her. And I did that because if you're too close to her, when she goes to attack, she'll literally punch you in the face for like all your health. Honestly, I should probably cure. I'm kind of playing this a little dangerously. Her punches are very mean, and you're not meant to do this with the stick. It's just what we do in the speedrunning community. Oh, yikes. Because the stick is a lot faster as far as like ATB for the same amount of damage that the starting pistol does. The only issue is that you obviously have to be right on top of them. Well, in this game, if you run into an enemy, you get knocked back and you're stunned for about like a quarter a second. And when that happens, you take damage as well. So you want to be right on top of stuff to ensure that you don't miss it with your incredibly tiny range. But at the same time, you want to be too careful not to take damage. And so it's almost impossible to do in a lot of scenarios. That fight is one of them, and one of the fights coming up is another. So we jump into the sewers in our heels and our black dress. Typical Friday night. Oh, that was such a bad misplay on my part. Oh no. I gotta wait for my PE to generate. The green bar you see below me or below my health, is actually my mana, my Parasite energy. And because I started with bad ATB at the beginning of this fight, which is a really low chance of happening, I got stun locked by their attacks based on their movement, which is also entirely random. So it's really hard to tell how these fights will ever go. I probably would have reset over that, honestly. And then when we're dealing with the frog, we have to be exceptionally careful because he does a ton of damage and his hitbox is so stupid. I'm gonna kill the rat first. Wow. So you can kill him in 2 hits if you crit twice, which never happens, but that's cool, I guess. Pick up that chest right there. So far, this first day is not going well. Based on just the random pathing and stuff like that, it could go a lot better. If we get the offense 2 out of that box, we save about 15-16 seconds. but we never do. But between the offense 2 and this next fight coming up, you can actually get really lucky and save a ton of time on your first split. If these guys die in one attack each, you save an immense amount of time. And it already looks like it's not going to happen. So you need 2 of the 3 attacks on each frog to crit in order to kill them in one hit. And you need to do that 2 times. And so it's pretty improbable. But when it happens, it's nice because you skip this whole entire next menu. I'm actually going to use the phone right here, which is our way of saving. And the reason I do this is because this next fight can sometimes be a little unpredictable, to say in the least. Where it's extremely based on timing, and sometimes he glitches out of his animation, which completely ruins your attempt at timing. And when that happens, it's just kind of a free-for-all. It gets really ugly really quick. So this is actually the only thing I'm really a little worried about dying in the entire run, but if I just play it safe, it's pretty impossible to actually die. How's the audio, guys? Or my voice? Am I like too loud? Is the game too quiet? Anything like that? And if I'm talking too much, feel free to just tell me to be quiet. The game is pretty resident sleeper. I'm just trying to keep people awake. That'll work. So that first phase went literally as well as it could have gone. I could have moved a little bit more efficiently, but true, that was nice. That was really nice. That first phase can sometimes be absolutely awful. Should be one more attack round and he's dead, which is a really, really good alligator fight. Nice. Very, very nice. Very nice. So it looks like we'll come in at about a 19 day 1. Nah, it has to be higher than that. Maybe like a 20-minute day 1. That's not bad. Not bad for emulator pace. The dude you see here punching people, that's your partner, Daniel. One of the coolest characters in video gaming, period. He does nothing but cool stuff. He drives the speed of light, as you can see here. Just a swell guy. Smash through some text. I love this cutscene because the song in the background sounds like it was made in GarageBand. Quality soundtrack on this game. Cool. So day one. Right here I'm going to show you one of my favorite things about this game. It is doors. Doors in this game, for anybody trying to play this game casually or learning to play the speedrun, doors are one of the trickiest, most aggravating things in the whole game. Because if you don't hit them a certain way, you'll literally just slide your face across them like this. So at the last second, right at the door handle, you have to move in the direction that the door would be taking you. And it's really strange. It's really strange to get used to because it's a small trigger. And there's a lot of instances in this game where you got really tiny triggers and you just sit there mashing your button, just praying to hit it. It's just one of those quirks that after you've done enough runs, you kind of know exactly how to do it. You get better about doing it. But grand scheme of things, it's just pretty poor game design. Like, if you run into the door, you should go through it. I can't tell you how many times I've watched people play this game casually online or whatever, and they think that the door is locked or something because they can't get into it, and then they spend an hour just looking around trying to figure out what they're supposed to do next. When in actuality, they just weren't hitting the door at the exact spot it needed to be hit at, which is silly. Another big part of this game is because of how the loading screens work, screen memorization is super, super important. A lot of the early Square Enix games were like this, Final Fantasy IX being a big one as well. As soon as you load into the next screen, you need to be moving in the direction you would need to be going when you load. So if I need to be going diagonally up in the next screen, as I load into it, I start holding it, and by the time the screen actually loads, I'm like halfway through the screen already because of just how slow the loading is. Now, throughout the entire run of this game, you save like whole minutes just off of screen memorization alone and moving optimally. Nice. That door, and there's a few others in the game, you can actually hit on the exact frame that you need to hit them on, and you'll skip like this little short walking animation. Saves you a couple seconds every single time. There's probably 6 or 7 of those doors in the entire game where you can save a couple seconds. And I talk about these things because otherwise, like, the game looks very drab, very slow, very I don't want to say uninteresting, but like not very engaging. There's actually a lot of like micromanagement you do in your head that is not always translated to the screen for people to see. So for anybody wanting to learn how to run the game or whatever, I would absolutely recommend or suggest that you do so if it looks like a fun game to you. Because it is a really, really fun game to run. And honestly, not a lot of people have ever heard of it, apparently. Every time I run this game, I have like a couple of people who have played it before, and some people who have heard of it, and then others who are like, what the hell is this? People are catching on fire, you're beating rats to death, some real strange stuff's going on. And I'm like, nah dude, this is just New York City. So this is the first time you're going to see this very incredibly detailed world map for a brief second as I go to the next location. It's ugly and it's really clunky because for some reason while you're on the world map, time doesn't tick in the in-game time. So sometimes because of that, depending on how fast you move across the world map, you can have faster runs have actually slower in-game times. I had a run once that was about 6 seconds faster than what was the current world record, and it was actually a slower in-game time even though it was a faster RTA, just because of like, you know, difference in how I used maps. And this was a long time ago, but it's just a really weird thing. So we don't base anything, like in-game time is not the law of the land like it is in most games that offer an in-game time. In this game we primarily use RTA, and in-game time is just something extra. Now when you see me stutter stepping like that, it's usually because you have to hold circle to run, and I'm mashing X to obviously advance through text. And if you do it at the same time, sometimes when the chat ends and you're still doing it, you kind of like take these weird little stutter steps. Are there any other run categories for this game? There are actually. There are 3 in total. This one is the new game, which is the most commonly run. It's the most popular for a couple reasons. The next one is the New Game Plus, which is literally just that, playing the game, but with, you know, any other New Game Plus kind of situation where you have all the stats from a previous playthrough, and you just gun down everything in one hit the whole time. It's much faster and pretty boring. And then the third category is New Game Plus Chrysler Building, which is just a different ending. It's technically the real ending of the game, and that run is about 30 minutes. But because this is the most straightforward and not very gimmicky category that we have, this is definitely the most run. I actually personally don't run any of the other categories because they're, you know, it actually takes a lot of time to be able to run them at a competitive pace, and they're ultimately just kind of silly anyways. So it's not. I just don't want to invest my time in it, because the people who run them will play. They'll do so many playthroughs that all their stats are maxed out. Well, that will take multiple playthroughs for that to happen. Where you actually save at the end of the game. And I just don't want to do that. That sounds awful, honestly. Just to be competitive in a category with 2 other people. So it is kind of sad that the game works like that. I know that some people have just modified like save files, but I think I get my fill in this game just running the any % style category, which is just our new game. No matter how fast you run or how optimally you move, you will never get through that door before it hits you in the face. It's just not possible. Running it on the PSP is so much different than running it on console or emulator, just because of how different the mashing is, how the controller feels in your hand. The load times are stupidly fast on the actual PSP. I love it. I love playing on the PSP. So I'm quite bummed that I wasn't able to do it this run. But we'll see if we can still get like maybe really good console world record time or something. Now, when you modify your guns like you just saw me do, in a marathon setting, you're gonna see me like kind of stall and take my time right there, because I have to be absolutely sure, like 100% positive that I did it correctly, because if not, it will literally ruin the rest of the game. Because all the guns that we get and that we have and we use, we absolutely need. And the way that it works is when you modify a gun, you will you lose the gun, the stats you're pulling it off of. So we need some stats more than others, and sometimes we just take the you know, like the damage and things like that. But sometimes they have really great stats, like if hit multiple enemies, you know, enter 2 commands and things like that. So in order to make sure that I don't have to reset or completely run a route in the run I've never done before by screwing up menuing, you're going to see me take a little bit of time occasionally. So this is Central Park. A lot of people, this is where they will stop playing the game casually because it is so punishing so early on. It's very, very unfun if you don't know where you're going because of the way that random encounters work in this game. And I guess I can explain that now. Random encounters, the way that it works is if you get into a fight on a screen, like you're about to see me get into a fight pretty soon, you're guaranteed to get that fight no matter what. There's no way to dodge it, there's no way around it. But if you progress through that same screen after already having fought that fight, the time you come back to it, your encounter rate is half. So it goes down to 50% and then halves every single time you come back to the same screen. So that's where a lot of RNG comes into play in this run. If you just get a lot of repeat encounters in whatever screen you progress through more than once, sometimes it can slow you down quite a bit, and sometimes you get none and you're way ahead of pace. But if you're playing the game casually and you're going the wrong way and you have to progress through screens you've already come through a whole bunch of times, it's really hard and it's really punishing because medicine and ammo and things like that are all super, super limited in this game, very scarce. We take absolutely no extra fights that aren't unnecessary, and we get a very specific amount of ammunition from chests and things like that in this game, in this run, just because of how inconsistent it can be to pick it up just off of enemies and encounters alone. And right here, you're gonna see these two guys, these two birds drop junk, and junk is exactly what it sounds like. You don't ever want to see it. In an actual casual playthrough, it serves some kind of purpose, but in the speedrun, we hate it. It just takes up our very limited inventory space and accomplishes absolutely nothing. We're gonna step over this grilled guy just chilling on the ground right there and steal whatever it is from his chest, from his drawers. Now let's hope that I don't get bad luck on this chest right here, because I hate having to go the long way. Alright, nice. You have an 80% chance of getting the tool from that chest, and if you get ammo, it costs you about 20 seconds. In which case I would just probably reset in a regular playthrough. Because it is super annoying to have to go the long way. Oh wow, that's unlucky. So this guy throwing his arm at you, he's actually a deceptively dangerous guy. He can pump out a lot of damage. It's really hard to dodge. I just hate dealing with him. Now you saw me empty my gun out right there, and there's a couple reasons that we do stuff like that throughout the entirety of the run. Primarily because so this gun fires 2 bullets at a time, and if you are on 1 bullet or 3 or an odd number, obviously whatever it may be, when you run out of bullets, it's going to go through this reload animation before it reloads the gun and fires the next shot, and that takes a couple of seconds usually. It costs you time. Sometimes it can get you hit with stuff that can kill you, and it's brutal. You don't ever want to have to reload in the middle of a fight. What I did right there was spending my bonus points. And bonus points in this game are very, very important, absolutely crucial. And the way you get them is through making it, through actual fights, through random encounters, or encounters, I guess I could call them. And the less damage you take, and the more damage you do in every single one of those encounters, gives you more bonus points per fight. No matter how poorly you play, you should always have enough to put 1 point into your ATB at the end of that scene, though. So here we have another pretty cool cutscene. She's evolved into kind of a Cher-looking situation now. Let's not ignore the fact that that guy came to a live opera performance by himself. Getting melted is probably the least of his issues. Now, no matter where you exit, you come out the same door for some reason. I always thought that was odd. Because when we entered the screen through that door, we were on the left side of the stage. But when we exit out the back of the stage, yet we come through the same door. Very strange. Now here I'm going to take some time to pick up a revive. This is not something I usually do, but it gives me a lot of security in a marathon to not have to play like really, really efficiently. The revives are exactly what you would imagine, and the way that they work is unlike Phoenix Downs and other revive type items in RPGs, because you don't have a party and you really don't have turns in this game based on like how enemy attacks work. So when you die, it automatically will use a revive if it's in your inventory. as opposed to giving you the option to revive or whatever else. So they're super nifty to have, even in some speedruns. Like if you're not 100% comfortable with the run, it's nice to pick them up. It only costs you a few seconds, because sometimes, you know, you just get unlucky. Sometimes things crit you for more health than you got. You know, really, really weird stuff happens. And there's one boss in particular that I want to make sure that I have a revive for, because it is a marathon ender otherwise. So I absolutely hate dealing with birds because they're so sporadic in their movement, and they bump into you, and they're so annoying. They can fly too far away from your gun, like that, in which case you do too little damage or miss. And then you get junk for all that. Oop. That would have been ugly. Damn it! What a waste of my time. Oh goodness. So I picked up so much junk for no reason. I was trying to be nifty and get use out of that one medicine to drop, but that was a mistake. Oh well, I'll just have to waste some time dropping all those junks here in a little bit. You saw me reload to 2 bullets, an even number of bullets. Doesn't matter if it's 0 or 2. But if you get caught reloading while you're trying to kill these snakes, they will hit you and poison you. And their poison does 6 damage a second, which is a stupidly high amount of damage to do a second when you've only got 100 health. It's pretty brutal. Very unforgiving. And this polar bear shoots lightning. Pretty standard polar bear stuff. Oh, that's so unlucky. Wow, this is exceptionally bad. Usually these guys die in 2 hits. If you crit once. Otherwise they die in 3, which you saw right there, and they both died in 3. So that is a pretty good indication of just, you know, how this game is. Coming up here, we have one of the scarier bosses in the game. After this fight, we'll have to deal with them. But they're the worms, and they are noob crushers, man. Like, if you're new to running this game, it will be the most difficult thing you will probably deal with in the speedrun, is the stupid worms. Right here, I'm going to menu and probably save. And the reason being is that the worms do a stupid amount of damage, and they're pretty unpredictable in exactly what their attacks are going to look like and how they're going to move around. You'll see that here in a second. So when you start, there's 4 worms, and when one of them dies, another one gets bigger. And I have a pretty unique strategy for this, but it only works like in a really perfect scenario. And this is definitely not one of those scenarios. But if you happen to get lucky and get the perfect storm, you save almost a whole minute on this fight, ideally. Now you can kind of bait where their attacks are going to go. You've seen me do that, a little bit of that here. And I can kind of, reloads. I can kind of guide where they're going to be throwing their spikes so that I can move in a way that dodges them. But it's not always easy, especially when you get down to 2 worms. And here you see me split up the shots, because if you can get lucky enough to kill them on the same turn, you don't have to deal with the big worm, which we didn't get lucky. We needed a crit right there, and we didn't get it. So that's a little bit of a bummer. Definitely taking damage from that. So now he's got more health. He does a ton more damage. His attacks are almost impossible to dodge. So you can see how this fight can either be exceptionally good and fast and efficient, or just an absolute shit show. Should only take one more round to kill him. There we go. So yeah, just a really not a good worm fight. But we didn't die, so that's nice. We're in better shape than a lot of people by the time they finish their worms. Now this fight here that we're about to do can either be a 20-second fight or a minute-long fight, depending on your positioning, how much damage you're able to reduce, and just luck. But the entire time this fight goes down, that horse is on fire, and he's just dragging you through the middle of New York City. We stand right here right away so that she tries to punch us. We want her to try and punch us and not fly up into the air. Sometimes you just get unlucky. Like, you can be right in front of her and she just doesn't want to punch you. Man, these crits are ridiculous. Cool. Now we get some more cutscenes, some more text mashing, until we start the third day. So all in all, I'm trying to figure what my timing is like. It's not bad. Now, realistically, in that fight, you can afford to face tank 4 hits for full damage, and probably live with like 1 or 2 health. And when that happens, you usually will finish the fight in about 20 seconds. All things being equal, you're probably going to kill her in that amount of time. But just if she flies up in the air once, that's about a 8 to 10 second time loss, because you're not getting effective use of like recharging your attack, your ATB. So just in the first hour of the game, the first 55 minutes, 5 minutes of it, if not more, come down to just how well is your ATB going to be when you start fights. What are the attack patterns that you're going to end up getting from random enemies that are completely random in what they do. So there's a lot of variation to this run, which is why it takes so many reasons. So many runs in order to get like a really optimized time. It took me hundreds, literally 400 something runs to get the time that I have now. What's the reason you decided to speedrun Parasite Eve? Funny story. I was speedrunning Final Fantasy IX. I wanted to get into speedrunning Final Fantasy IX and Legend of Dragoon, 2 games I played more than any other game in my entire life. So I said, what better game to play than those? I know them inside and out already. Both of those games are like 10 hours, 13 hours in a speedrun. And I was doing them for a while, but like I just didn't have that kind of time to dedicate to that every day. So I was like, I needed to find a happy medium where it was like an RPG turn-based game that I liked. I love that style of gameplay, but also not so long that like if I screwed up a run or had to reset a run, my whole day was wasted. So I had remembered this game I dabbled with just ever so briefly when I was younger. So I looked it up, and fortunately enough for me, one of the other runners, his name is Primus, had compiled this insanely detailed walkthrough, like speedrunning route guide. Like it is, like I ran the game blind. I learned how to run the game blind, and within 2 or 3 weeks I was, putting up insanely good times, just off of the information in his guide. So it made it really easy to just kind of decide on this game, even though it wasn't a game that I, was crazy about as a kid or anything like that. And it's pretty unique. Like every time I play it, people are interested. People are curious, like what the hell's going on. I like the Final Fantasy elements that you can definitely see are in the game. So it's pretty cool, really original. You won't find another game like it anywhere else, and that's both good and bad. But here you just mash your whole life away. What a lot of this game is. I guess I can take a second to explain why people are catching on fire and why people are melting and such. Real quick synopsis of this game is you are a detective in New York City. All of a sudden people burst into flames one day, and it all seems to revolve around this one chick who calls herself Eve. Well, it turns out Eve is like I don't want to say a super being, but she is an advanced evolution of humanity or what have you, and she has really advanced, like her evolution is related to her extremely powerful mitochondria, which if anybody was ever in science class, at least in the US, we learned all about those. They provide like cells with energy and power. And she has the ability to turn the energy they produce up to an absurdly high level in other people, not just herself, which is why you see people burst into flames, because she cranks their mitochondria up to 1,000 and they combust, or they melt, or whatever. And then she's able to call and summon that mitochondria, whether it be in gelatinous form or not. And the blonde detective that you play as, for some reason, is immune to it. And later on, you kind of figure out why. But that's kind of where we're at now. Everybody else, if they get too close, burst into flames, or they melt. And you're the only one who can do anything about it. Go figure. But it's worth noting that the game was actually based off of a book, which became a movie in Japan. And Square Enix kind of spun it in a little bit differently, because all of this took place in Japan, in the book and in the movie. And it was like the scientist whose wife had died, and he like cultured her liver cells, and when he did so, he, genetically modified these mitochondria, which then, one way or another infected people. Now, they actually mention it quite a few times. And when this blue jacket guy here talks, he talks a lot about, he references the book, he references the movie, he says things like, in Japan we just had this happen, so I came over here to make sure it wasn't going on over here as well. Yeah, so it's cool that they throw a little bit of reference towards where the actual source of all this came from. The boss you fought on the horse and carriage is Eve. Yes, it is. Every time you see her, she's going to look a little differently. And that's supposed to show like the time frame, the period of time, and the process that she's changed. She started out as a singer named Melissa. She got infected with these advanced mitochondria, and now she has been basically possessed by the original carrier of the mitochondria, who was Eve. It's all very scientific, trust me.
Do you have time for a quick donation, though? I like that Palmer is not responding to my question. 10 out of 10. But anyway, the donation is from Black Belt Ginger Ninja, and he dropped the $50 bomb, which is crazy. And his comment was going to do a marathon run, but I'm horrible and had to back out last minute. Luckily, the amazing organizers helped me to show go on. The show's go on, yeah. We replaced it with O's. Figured this donation was the best, so the least I could do to make up. Thank you very much for your $50 donation, Black Belt, and no worries, we got your back.
So right here we basically just break into this gun shop, we steal all their good guns. Typical police work. For some reason, I thought I screwed something up. I was sweating it a little bit there. Oh, I did screw something up. There we go. Problem solved. Now here's a little funny instance of how hitboxes work in this game. Like as you can see here, this pole is much larger than it appears to be. And that happens all over the place. You have to be really mindful of taking super wide turns so that you don't get stuck on stuff. I'm trying to show you some stuff. You can see like right there. Like I'm not even near it. Come on now. I still get stuck on stuff that I didn't know you could get stuck on. And I've played this game a lot. So here we actually just come in here to progress the story, but while I'm in here I'm going to go ahead and get this revived just for the sake of the run's safety. So now we have 2. So now I can afford to die twice. And that's pretty, I like having that kind of freedom. Now I know I make it look easy, but that door trigger right there, you ask anybody, that's so impossible. Oh, sorry. Yeah, the TV. Dude, anytime there's a screen involved in this whatsoever, it's flickering and it's flashing. I don't know how anybody in New York lives with that. Just couldn't do it. It's similar to Daniel. Anytime he's driving the car, you move at absolute warp speed. Light is just bending all around you because of the immense speed that you travel at the entire time. Now, I've never been to New York, so I only have my experiences with this game to base my thoughts of New York off of. The place seems pretty wild, honestly. So in here we get explained a little bit of the lore, and because I'm mashing through it all as quickly as I possibly can, I'll kind of explain to you what's going on. This guy in the blue jacket is a scientist from Japan, a biologist in fact, and he lived through when something similar happened in Japan. So he comes over here, somehow he finds you. Of all the people in the country, he finds you, the one person in the world immune to it. Tells you what he knows, which is basically that, you know, the cell structures are different, the mitochondria are attacking their own cells, things like that. They got this science lab microscope, and for some reason it can magnify to like a molecular level. Real cutting edge technology. It's funny that you're going to see him here in a second, and we saw him a little bit earlier. But any time that Clamp is involved, the actual doctor in the lab coat looking guy, you're guaranteed to mash for at least 5 minutes or more. So quickly he becomes one of your least favorite people in the entire game. You'll see him here in a second, but anytime you come into this office, you're here for a while. Just buckle up. I like to get my phone out. I get on Snapchat or whatever. I just hit X the entire time with my free hand. It's nice. I like this game because sometimes, you know, it becomes casual. But, God forbid you have to reset, because you got to do it all over again. Like, you can only handle so much of that. That's one of the funnier interactions in the game. First of all, they break into this dude's office. Then when this guy just happens to return to his own office, boom, he's held at gunpoint. Like, what? What the hell's going on? And right here in a second, we're going to actually have one of the weirder skips in the game. It's not a real skip. It saves you 1 second total. But when Daniel goes to walk up to the computer that you'll see him do here in a little bit, for some reason, if you mash the text at like the exact correct time, you'll skip the animation of the doctor also walking to the computer. Nobody really knows why or how to replicate it. It just happens sometimes. It's just one of those things that kind of cracks you up. So I'll see if we got it here in a second. And we didn't. Oh, bummer. We didn't save a second there, guys. What happens when you do get the skip is he walks to the computer, says something about it, and you skip that entire part of the doctor walking over there. It just cuts to the next scene. Daniel picks him up. The computer's turned off like magic. This is my favorite scene in the car because you're traveling at absolute hyper speed levels. Like, this isn't straight Star Wars business going on here. Absolute madness. There's no traffic in New York City whatsoever. That's the most unrealistic thing about this game. So yeah, we show up to the police station. Everything's all busted up. Daniel charges in there like the natural, just super badass that he is. And you go to do the same. And this guy says, wait a second, hold on. Take this charm bracelet. Thanks, buddy. Now this screen right here I'm actually running into will be the first instance of repeat encounters in the game. Because this will be the first screen we progress through more than once. Oh wow, what a bummer. And by doing so, we have a 50% chance the second time we come through here of getting that fight again. Now in a perfect world, you get as few of the repeat encounters as possible. But the catch is that by the end of the game, you need to be a certain level in order to beat the last few bosses who you have to fight all in conjunction, like right one after another. And if you're not 33 by that point because you got so lucky without getting any of the repeat encounters, it actually hurts you. So it's really, really weird that a different mixture of RNG from one run to the next can, even though you got more encounters than you did another time, can actually do you a lot of good. Here we take the charm bracelet and we throw it away because we don't want that crap in our inventory. We actually move it to our locker, basically, because you can't get rid of it. It's a story trigger. So we didn't get that encounter repeated, so that's nice. We talk to Kathy here. She dies. No big deal. Go on our way. Business as usual. I'm actually going to heal here. because this fight has a tendency to be a little bit tricky. Every time I play on an emulator, it feels like I just take so much more damage. I have no idea why. Like, that guy did 50. That's a lot of damage for I'm not really sure exactly why he did that much damage to me. But here we're about to get an awesome piece of armor that really makes our life a whole lot easier. And what it does is it cures you. Anytime you fall below 25% health, it'll use whatever medicine you have in your inventory and heal you for that amount automatically. Nice, we got lucky. I healed just in case we didn't, but so there's only 2 screens you can get repeat encounters in the whole entire police station we're doing, and we got neither of them, so that's really nice. Won't catch me making that mistake again. I can't tell you how many times I forgot to equip that piece of armor after dropping the one we had on. And I go and fight these next spiders we're about to see, and they literally just one-shot the crap out of you. Because you have no defense. Happens a shameful amount of times. And that's part of the issue with trying to do muscle memory menus. Now that was just a slip up. That's just me making mistakes. But as far as like really optimized menus, it's impossible to like rehearse just through muscle memory alone, because a lot of monsters drop more of the items than they usually do, or less, or they don't drop anything at all, or they drop different items. And by doing so, changes the position of stuff in your inventory. And when that happens, you know, you can't just rely on memory and feel alone to do your menus properly. Which is kind of annoying about this game, because practice doesn't always do you a whole lot of good. Now, if you are like immensely fond of dogs, I would suggest either looking away or, I don't know, bracing yourself. If you cried during I Am Legend, this scene might not be for you. Now what's funny is he runs out of ammunition right there, and we don't show up for like a whole nother minute. So in the period of time that we're just out here lollygagging, who knows what is going on in there, like honestly. Now right here, I guess I can explain why the gun I'm using works the way it does all of a sudden. So we use SMGs in this game because they're insanely fast, and one of their attributes is that they fire a third bullet a occasionally. And it's a free bullet that's not reduced in damage based on the rate of fire, which is something that happens in this game. However, the trade-off for that is that you can't aim. You can't choose your targets anymore. So it's completely random what's going to get hit. And sometimes that's fine, like because a lot of these bosses are single target, or all of the targets that you hit, like this one we're about to fight, are all in one collective space. But in some cases, it's very, very problematic, because if the enemies are spread too wide and you happen to target the furthest one away, you're going to miss. Now Shiva always opens up with that attack, which sucks because it immediately half healths you. Now right here, you're gonna see me take contact damage from her. And the reason I did that is because she can actually, and now as well, she can actually kill me if she does the bite. Nothing else can do more than 70 damage except for the bite. So anytime I get below 40 or close to 40, you'll see me try to bump into her to force my vest to cure itself. And now she's healed twice, which is just one of her moves, 3 times now. Every time you see that, you basically lose 2 turns. 4 heals. Holy crap. This is just pitiful. Four heals, that's really bad. And thank goodness she's dead. Man. That's 4 heal Shiva is dreadfully bad. And you never want to, like, if you see her heal once, it sucks. I've seen her heal 6 times one time. It turned a minute-long fight into almost a 3-minute fight. So that's just another point that if she just decides to use heals a bunch, nothing you can do about it. You can just reset. Is it difficult to learn this as a speedrun? Not at all. Not at all, actually. The game is very easy to get into, very easy to learn. There's a lot of small tricks, just like any other speedrun game, where once you master them is how you really get to like the top tier of the runners. But just as an entry-level runner, you can absolutely get into this game very easily. We have a guy named Primus who has put together incredibly detailed walkthrough notes for anybody who wants to learn. It literally takes you step by step, and I mean step by step. It'll tell you, move right into this door. On this screen, hold left. Like, it could not be any more detailed. So yeah, if you want to learn a speedrun that's easy and only takes 3 hours, dude, I highly recommend you check it out. Shoot me a message. I will more than happily talk Parasite Eve with some people. We don't have a whole lot of runners, so when we do get some people interested in the game, we all kind of get excited about it. Another thing that's worth mentioning is that basically how the route is now is about as refined as this game can possibly get, without figuring out a way to skip cutscenes or like duplicate items or something like that. Because you are relegated to having to fight a certain amount of stuff in order to be a certain amount of, in order to be a certain level by the end of the game. You can't, it's not as simple as just completely skipping some fights or some screens and things like that. So the route is exceptionally optimized. Every now and again I theorize with some of the other runners, and we've managed to squeeze like a couple of minutes off of the run just by optimizing fight strategies and stuff like that. But otherwise, I invite someone, if you are If you are a pro glitch finder or skipper finder or whatever the hell it's called, come give this game a try, man. Because if you could cut the cutscenes out of this game, it would be about 35 minutes shorter. Which is stupid. Stupid fast. Oh, I don't know why I just did that. That was a mistake. Everybody look away. Yeah, I thought I was on a different day than I was. Feels bad, man. Now this part coming up is probably one of my favorite parts in the entire game. I like it. A lot of people really dislike it, just because there's a huge amount of RNG that goes into the hospital. Probably the biggest, most impactful dice roll in the game is a 50-50, and it happens in here, whether or not you get the M10 or the micro Uzi. Now, if I don't get the micro Uzi, I usually will reset, because I can't beat my time that I have currently without it. It's just the faster, better gun by about 30 seconds to a minute, depending on how the run goes. Now, you know, in a marathon or whatever, it doesn't matter what we get, because we can still finish the game really easily with it, with the weaker gun. But up until recently, there was not really a backup strat around the weaker gun, so it was just a reset. And it's pretty much halfway into the run, and people would get really upset or tired of running the game just because they would have to reset an hour and a half into a 3-hour run, and multiple times if you just get unlucky. But now we don't do that, we just take a time loss. I still reset over it. The hospital cracks me up because a lot of the screens, from screen to screen, the movement is not the same. So like in that last screen, in order to go up, diagonally up and left, I had to hold diagonally up and right. And then to exit, I had to hold literally the complete opposite direction, down and left, to go slightly to the right. It makes no sense. The controls in the hospital are absolute bonkers. Yeah, I agree. I think RNG speedruns are, I think they're fun. It's fun to have like a certain level of RNG. This game might have a considerable amount more than people are looking to or looking forward to having in their games. But as far as like just doing runs and like getting decent times, like RNG will only lose or gain you like 5 minutes or something like that. So if you're not like super competitive and like trying to beat your time by just a few seconds, then it's kind of irrelevant. Whereas some games, one bad move of RNG and game's over, you know, like Dampe in The Legend of Zelda and stuff like that. The most powerful weapon in the game is actually it's a gun you get by turning in a lot of the junk that you see me getting. If you collect the junk and you take it to the gun guys in the police station, after a certain amount of junk, they'll like craft you this super powerful, insanely, stupidly strong weapon. But you gotta like wait for it to happen, and we don't need it to beat the game, so we just don't even bother with any junk at all. The most powerful gun we'll use is the M8000. Well, it depends. If we get the micro Uzi, we won't use the M8000. If we get the M10, we will. But the M8000 does work. It fires 2 bullets at a time. It's a pistol, but it puts the hurt out, I swear. It does stupid amounts of damage. Another reason people aren't quite fond of the hospital is because all of the enemies give you status effects, and a lot of the enemies give you slow. Those little jelly pod things give you poison, so it's super easy to blow through all your medicine because your vest is popping it nonstop because you have all these damage over time effects on you. And so it's just kind of annoying. Getting slowed is like one of the most aggravating things ever because it literally halves your ATB speed. And in a speedrun, obviously, you never want to be slower. So it's just a little annoying. This guy over here, he literally just chucks fireballs at you. Don't ask me why. So what you just saw there, I don't know if you caught it. Even though I got hit with this this dude's little ball, it did 0 damage. And for some reason in this game, nobody's really sure why or how it works. You just get invincibility frames. Like it's got to be tied to animations or something like that. But yeah, you can literally just fire your gun, and right as you're finishing firing the gun, or right as you take damage from something, you just get like these few seconds where you just can't be touched by anything, and sometimes you dodge like really crazy abilities on accident. We actually manipulate that a little bit towards the end of the game. There's an ability that one of the bosses uses that should take you to 1 health, but if you stand on top of him while he does it, it just does 0 damage for some reason. So here is the micro Uzi M10 chest. If we see the M10, it basically means that we're just going to be the run is just going to probably be like 30 seconds to a minute slower. Oh, yikes. Bummer. It's taken everything in my being to not reset over that. And that changes how I actually menu here a little bit. Yeah, I guess. Oh, I see what happened. I shouldn't have this gun. I must have picked it up from Shiva. How bad of me. Whatever. That's unfortunate that we got the M10. Really is not fun to use. So does every chance have a group of items that could be in a chest? Oh yes, exactly. There's some invincibility frames for you right there. Yeah, every chest has, usually it's split up 80%, 20%, but the M10 micro Uzi chest is a dead even 50-50. But most of the chests have an item that they'll give you 80% of the time, and then you have a chance to get usually a worse item 20% of the time. Except for like I said, the M10 micro Uzi. That one is a 50-50, and both of those weapons are meant to be equal, because like one of them has higher damage, but one of them has better range and stuff like that. But what the developers didn't take into account is just how much modifications will dump on stuff, and that creates a different issue. Now right here I'm going to show you something that you shouldn't do, but it's funny to watch. If you turn the power on, and then you touch the wires, just electrocute yourself. I'm not sure why that's even part of the game. Like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me why they would even give you the option to do that. But you know, it's just something to keep you going, I guess. Now this screen is awful. Okay. So you hold down right to go up left. You hold up right to go down left. No, up left, sorry. It's just a nightmare. I still haven't figured it out, and I've done 500 runs of this game. So here you're going to see me start taking damage on purpose. And the reason I do this is because like it's easy to get your inventory really full. But if you take damage from certain enemies that do just a small amount of damage, you can actually manipulate the way your vest utilizes medicine. So that instead of having to sort through your inventory and drop medicine and stuff, you can just have your vest pop medicine for you. And that's a really effective way to kind of like minimize your inventory without having to waste the time on menuing. Wow, I needed to get below 41 HP right there, and she just wasn't doing enough damage to me. That's funny. I'm actually going to use some medicine here. So in the two screens that we just went through and this screen that we're going through now, as we progress back through the three screens, we can get all of these encounters again. And I mean, you've watched me fight them, so you can kind of understand just about how much time that saves or loses you. Just having to do literally the same thing over. And as soon as you end that fight, you want to end it exactly where I'm standing. Because if you end it anywhere else, she'll run to where I'm standing, and she runs very slowly. So you lose 5 to 10 seconds if you're not standing in that spot by the time that fight's over. Just in her walking over there, and then afterwards walking to this nurse that's on the other side of this wall. A lot of times in this run, you'll see me position like, as the fight is about to end, I'll position myself on a certain side of the screen because that's where I need to go as soon as the fight is over. So it minimizes, running and things like that. And she is not a fast mover whatsoever. One of the slowest moving video game characters I think I've ever seen. Look at that. Look at that trot. Oh man, that's ugly. That's rough. Now we wanna hope and pray that we don't get any of these three encounters. We especially didn't want this one. This is the slowest. Oh, it's so awful. Yeah, that's like, 35 seconds of my life I'll just never get back. Just because we got the bad end of a 50-50 dice roll. Now here we have another one. And we didn't get that one. That one's the best one to get. If you get any of them, that's the one you want. Oh my lord. Oh goodness. Please. We already got the M10. Like, what more do you want from me? Spare me, please. Oh, that was so well done. The hospital is actually, like, if anybody's trying to pay attention to the actual story in the game, if you play it casually, the hospital is where you find out the most information about what the hell is actually going on. You figure out why Eve is the way she is, and why you're immune to everything, and all that stuff. And I'll kind of explain it as I go, because I'll be mashing too quickly for you to read it. But basically, that weird professor, the creepy one with the flashing computer screen, that guy who is an archaeologist, he works in a dinosaur museum. So why he's doing surgery on anyone is beyond me. But he did surgery on 2 young girls at a very young age, which happened to be you and Melissa, the girl who turned into Eve. And you received basically tissue donations from the original Eve when she died, which is why you guys are both infected, I guess, for lack of a better word. Thirteenth floor. Basement, lobby, and 13th floor. Like, those are your options. I feel like you could have done so much more than that, alright? Like, I'm not an architect, but I have to imagine that you don't just start at the 13th floor. So here you're going to see me use Energy Shot for the first time. It does a decent amount of damage, and it uses all of your Parasite energy. But as soon as you're done, it incapacitates you like you just saw me do. But the reason I did it is because it does a lot of damage to that ugly looking guy you just saw. Those guys are called mixed men, and they are the absolute worst. Just the worst. They slow you, is one thing they do. And then they release these little balls that bounce around. And when your gun targets stuff randomly, like, more enemies and slow are like the 2 worst things you could possibly do. So we try to kill them as fast as possible. The Energy Shot makes them 1 health away from death, which is why we do it. Cure M's are probably the most useless thing in the game. So I'm gonna make sure I get rid of all of them, because we're about to pick up some decent medicine in these next couple rooms. I want to make sure I got space for them. So we got another mixed man, and the little rat-looking guy that throws fireballs. So yeah, the mixed man, like, he doesn't do anything real scary. He just literally exists to bother you. Kind of like my 3-year-old, you know what I mean? And here's another mixed man. Wow, I got a phantom shot. So one of the weird little bugs or glitches or just weird things that happens in this game is if, so say you're firing your bullets, 3 bullets are going to come out, and they all target randomly. Well, when they do, if all 3 bullets, as soon as you click to fire, it decides what it's going to target. And when it does, if that target dies, so say like it randomly decides that it's going to fire all 3 bullets at the closest target to me. Well, if that closest target dies in just 1 of those bullets, it just won't fire the other 2 bullets. It won't then spread them out to the next enemy or anything like that, anything helpful. Just doesn't fire any bullets at all. So sometimes you, instead of getting 3 bullets, just get 1. A complete waste of a turn. So here I want to heal to full. That'll work. Couldn't decide if I wanted to use medicine. I'm gonna use BP. Because we're about to fight a boss. And this boss, just based on how... It's literally random how the fight is going to start off. And how it starts is a really, really important indicator of how you need to actually handle the fight itself. A game reminds me of Resident Evil, but turn-based. And you know what? That's kind of what it is, really. Square Enix, when they made the game, obviously they were trying to compete with Resident Evil and Silent Hill, which were, you know, running the category, running that genre of game. This was Square Enix's attempt at like competing with them in that space. But they came from turn-based RPGs, that was all they knew. So the game came out as like this weird mixture of the two of them. And I love it. I think it's awesome because of that reason. But apparently, the fans did not love it because it didn't sell super well. It actually was never even released in Europe or any of the PAL areas. Okay, so we got good luck on this fight. So what happens is, if the spider takes a step towards you, that means you got good luck and you're gonna just let him punch you a bunch, which is the fastest way to handle this fight. Now if he takes a step backwards, that's bad, because it means you're gonna get slowed, and the fight then becomes very dangerous. And it, just based on whether he moves forward or backwards at the beginning of the fight, dictates how it goes and how you need to handle it, whether or not you're gonna be in a world of trouble. Beautiful. And right here, what I'm doing is, by standing on this side of him, I'm manipulating his movement. Because when I energy shot him, which should kill him right here, he's going to walk to the other side of the screen. And when he does that, I need him to be as close to the trigger as possible, which is right there. So that's pretty good. That was actually a really good spider fight. Make sure I don't pick up the gun. So funny little tidbit of information right here. This airplane comes speeding towards you, but the game fails to tell you, hey, you gotta get off this roof before this airplane crashes into you. And there's a timer that we don't display, and we're not gonna tell you how to get off the roof. So if you're not paying attention, you're gonna die, and you're gonna get gamed over. And you're gonna have to load your last save, which is at the beginning of the hospital. Which means you're going to have to fight the spider and do all that over again. So if you're playing it casually, remember, the bottom left corner, that's where the scaffolding is. I've seen a lot of people die because they run all over the roof trying to figure out what the hell they're supposed to do, and then the plane just crashes into them. Now because we have the N10, that guy didn't die in one hit. It took 2, which costs you probably 4 or 5 seconds. Pretty annoying. So here we just have some quality mashing. And then And then we go on to day 5. Getting closer and closer to the home stretch. Back at the police station, everything's been cleaned up. The dead bodies have been disposed of, I guess. Cleaning staff does an excellent job. This guy who was attacked decided to come back to work the next day for whatever reason. Whatever. Live your dream. But probably my least favorite in the area in the entire game is coming up. The sewers. We're about to have to go there. Because we got the M10, we're going to just go straight to the sewers, as opposed to making a pit stop we would make otherwise with the micro Uzi. With the micro Uzi, we would stop and get quick draw put on our gun, which gives you a pretty high probability of starting every fight with full ATB, like ready to attack, which is insanely valuable. Insanely valuable. Now with the M10 we don't get that, so it slows down. You lose a lot of time throughout the game by just not having that capability. It kind of sucks, but it's the nature of the M10 micro Uzi. It's also worth noting for anybody who's played the game casually or intends to, that the warehouse where we would go to get quick draw is also where you get the rocket launcher. I know that a lot of people really enjoy that weapon in this game. I don't ever use it, obviously, but it is fun to play around with. Save the animals. Dude, you know what? If there was a flee button in this game, I would absolutely save the animals for you. Absolutely. So this fight is two snakes and this giant rat thing. Basically, my ex-wife and her friends when they go out drinking. Quality stuff. Maybe that's why I enjoy this game so much. It's very personal to me. Now, a funny thing about how this game works, any creature that gives you a status ailment, so if he poisons, say a monster can poison you, or slow you, or whatever, now whenever you kill that monster, they will drop whatever it is that cures the status ailment they give you. And because of that, we're about to find ourselves in a really unfortunate situation, because we're going to fight bats. It's the first time we fought bats. And the bats blind you, right? And when they blind you, it takes 4 turns for you to become unblinded. You can't hit anything while you're blinded. 4 turns. And then it gives you the cure to blindness after the fight. Like, I don't need it then. Oh my god, and I got hit right away. Jesus. Well, this is gonna be bad. Or just slow, rather. Thankfully it doesn't stack, but when they kind of position like this, it's not swell. You want to try and kill one of them as fast as possible, Oh, okay. And so now we can cure the blindness if we ever happen to have it happen to us again. Which, there are times when that happens. But man, it is just so annoying. It might be the most annoying thing in the game. I've seen that fight take people like a solid 5 minutes just because they kept getting blinded like on rotation. It's called Cure D, because you gotta cure that D every once in a while, you know. Oh my god. Okay, so this fight, you have like a 30% chance of ever seeing. And I've seen it in both of my marathon runs now. And god, it is miserable. Blind, poison, and stun lock. All things that happen in this fight. Like, there are boss fights that are less trouble than this fight. That was so greedy of me. Oh wow, I got super lucky. Is there a reason why you play on PSP? Yeah, actually, I'm not playing on PSP today. I'm playing on emulator. Because my PSP, I got a brand new capture card, and I wasn't thinking about it. And it doesn't work on my it doesn't work with my PSP. And I don't have the other one on me. Or the capture card I was previously using. Anyways, to answer your question, yeah, the PSP is significantly faster than even the fastest console. The PSP is about 5 minutes faster than emulator, just off of load times alone. It's faster than the fastest PlayStation, which is the Slim 92 or 90K PS2. It's faster than that by like at least 2 minutes just in load times throughout the entirety of the game. So it makes an insanely big difference. So much of a difference, in fact, that we've considered breaking up the leaderboards and making PSP like its own leaderboard. Because those of us that run on PSP, the people who don't, literally they could run the greatest run of their lives and still just never be at the same time as us. I kind of like the PSP. Once I got one, and I started playing with it and doing runs on it more regularly in order to compete with what was the world record at the time, I fell in love with it. I like the PSP. I think the buttons are super easy to mash, so my mashing it felt faster. Like it hurt less by the end of a run, my hand. That's pretty much it, I guess. You don't use analog movement anyways, so the lack of it on the PSP doesn't affect you. I think it's a pretty good system to run it on. Like, I prefer it by far. I think I'm the only one though. Everybody else likes the PlayStation controllers and stuff a lot better. And that, I can understand that because the PSP is not like super ergonomical. It'd be like trying to do an entire run on one of those Wii U remotes. Those big tablets. But it is stupid fast compared to everything else. And for some reason, the fastest way to run it is PSP with a digital download and fast disk speed turned on. For some reason, the fast disk speed makes the digital download faster. Don't ask me why. Not entirely sure. Really weird. Yeah, I agree. I think the PSPs are solid. I like them. I like playing on them, especially when they're plugged into the capture card and you can use the TV to actually see, and it's just basically a controller. The buttons and everything are very, very soft and easy to press and stuff like that. Very smooth. But yeah, the PSP as a whole just never really caught on, whereas like the DS erupted. But the fastest PSP for this game is the PSP 3000 and 2000. Nobody's ever tried to run it on a 1000, so I can't speak for any kind of validity there. Dang it. So right here we're going to save, because one of the harder, most run-killing bosses in the entire game we're about to come up to, it's the Centipede. It's really the one biggest drawback in the entire route for having the randomly targeted weapon. I need to sort my inventory really quickly. The reason I sorted right there is because this monster I'm about to fight, this little hedgehog, or this little mole, he drops a Cure P, which I need really badly. And if your inventory is full, you obviously won't pick it up. Oh, that's fine. Oh, actually. Ah, bummer. Okay, so here we go. This is Centipede. Let's see how it goes. With the M10, it is it is really tricky. I'm gonna open up with haste here. Now, haste is an amazing ability in this game. Your actual mana only has like so many useful abilities tied to it. Some of the spells are pure garbage. Oh no, that's not good. So this is just kind of Centipede. This is how it goes. You just kind of stand closer to one piece of the bodies than the others and hope you kill something. Because everything is targeted randomly, so you're going to miss most of the time. You're going to take a crap ton of damage for absolutely no reason. Nice. So I'm actually going to energy shot here. The tail and the head have more health than the two middle pieces. So because I killed the head first, I'm going to go for the tails next. Alright, so that Centipede fight was ugly. It can go a lot better than that. Yeah, and it really needs to in order for you to... Oh, wow. Yeah, see, I went through a lot of my... medicine. Which is kind of okay. Because in the museum, which we're about to get to, you get a ton of medicine. And it's all really, really good medicine that heals for a large amount. But we were 3 or 4 medicines away from that fight being really ugly. Now, I know that it doesn't make any sense, but this game has 2 discs. And for no reason whatsoever, the disc change happens right now. There's no huge story cliffhanger. There's no big boss fight. For some reason, it's just one screen. You gotta change the disc. It's weird. Are there side bosses? Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot. Right here, if you actually walk along this yellow line down... Oh, I missed the trigger for it. That's unfortunate. You can actually skip... I'm trying to show it to you. There you go. You can skip an entire screen. And you end up on this screen, which is where the exit is. But you saw me get stuck right there. Sometimes it doesn't always work. Most of the first disc is rendered videos. That's so true. That's so true. Oh my god. That cracks me up. But anyways, back to your question. Side bosses, yeah, not exactly bosses, but there's definitely some really hard enemies. There's a ton of optional areas that I don't go to in this game, just because there's no need, and they would slow me down. But you can get like the rocket launcher. There's a lot of really, really strong, unique enemies that are around the rocket launcher if you wanted to go and get that gun. A lot of people try to just get all the best guns they can get. You know, that's fun to them. And doing so, you actually have to fight like some monsters that are harder than most of the bosses in this game. The New Game Plus, the Chrysler Building, you fight the hardest boss in the game, which we don't even fight during this whatsoever. Only use me, Kipo. What's going on, buddy? What's going on, my dude? Bring me a bag of chips, will ya? What? So this is one of the most punishing enemies in the game, just because his hitbox is so stupid. Oh my goodness, he does dumb amounts of damage. And the museum is unique in the fact that the fights that you take in the museum, they, like this fight right here, it can be different. You know, you're guaranteed to get this fight every single time you come into this room. But the monsters that you fight can be mixed up. And based on, you know, getting easier monsters as opposed to, like this is the slower, harder of the different fights you can get. So just there's so much time saved based on just how luck treats you in the museum. If not within, are you going to get repeat encounters? The actual monsters that you get that make up the encounters that you do get. So you can save, like I've been in the red before and then had a gold split because like the museum gave me nothing but the easiest possible makeups of the easiest possible encounters. It's really funny. And some of the coolest enemies in the game are in here. Obviously, you gotta fight some dinosaurs. That's obviously dope as shit. Feel a lot like Robin Williams, bless his heart. Just in the museum at night. Stuff's coming to life. The dumb raptors slipping and sliding around was always hilarious. Oh, dude. They do moonwalk. They do moonwalk for sure. They kind of like move sideways and stuff, and I'm like, man, that's not even real. Physics in this game are ridiculous. But those little green lizards that jump around, they hit you with their tongue, which is exceptionally long-ranged, very hard to see. So if you get caught in between two of them, they can stun lock you for a good amount of time and do a really strong amount of damage. And right here, armadillos, probably my favorite thing in the whole game to fight. Primarily because they're super easy to, you can kind of manipulate their movement and force them to group together. And in doing so, makes it way more easy, way more consistent for your weapon to randomly target them because they're all on top of each other. They do take a little while to kill because they are, you know, they do have increased defensive stats. But they also drop like the best medicine in the game. Which heals you pretty much for all of your health. Oh, we got a full cure. This run is so unfortunate. Usually you get 3 medicine 4s, which is insanely valuable. But this time we got 2 medicine 4s and probably the most useless item in the entire game, instead of the most useful full cure. So throw that in with the M10, and man, we are just, this is a bad luck streak of a run. One good thing about this game, though, is that no matter how bad your luck is, like, it'll never keep you from finishing the run, you know what I mean? Like, if you wanted to finish the run, even if you were behind, you could do so. Like, nothing is ever so bad that you were just, that the run is completely screwed up, and there's no way that you could possibly, you know, finish the bosses at the end or whatever. Here's a good example. In this fight, you can get just one of these dinosaurs, or two of them. So naturally it would be faster and more beneficial to only get one of them. Good lord, why are they taking so long to kill? How do we got the micro Uzi? I came up with a strat recently that is in the current world record, I believe. But we get ice bullets after Centipede, and ice bullets take the damage. I'm doing 60 damage on a crit right now to raptors. With ice bullets, you do over 100. So it makes these fights so simple. Armadillos and the raptor guys take increased damage from frost. So it makes a lot of the fights really, really easy and really, really fast. But you can only do it with the micro Uzi. Oh wow, I don't think I've ever seen this makeup. Usually it's an armadillo and two lizards. Out of 500 times, I don't think I've ever seen this. Probably faster, honestly. The unfortunate thing about those little green guys is they are basically the birds of the museum. They drop all your garbage, all your junk. They stun lock you and they drop junk. Or same thing the birds do. Now, pterodactyls, on the other hand, after this fight, we start seeing them regularly. They also get put into the pool of what can be, what can appear in encounters that you get. And man, they are so easy to kill. They drop really, really good medicine. Oh wow. And there's only one of them. So it is nice to see pterodactyls every once in a while. Oh, it's still not dead. Oh my goodness. Wow, are you serious? What poor luck. So that was my fault there. I didn't dodge the blind like I should have. I thought I was safe directly underneath them. I wasn't. They can blind you, which is why I kept some of the cure blindness medicines. But I need it. Like, if I'm going to use it, I want to use it later on when it's a little bit more impactful. So here we can either get 4 raptors or 1 pterodactyl. This is probably the most, the biggest impact based on like what monster makeup the encounter gives you. 4 raptors or that. Like, I just don't even understand. Who coded this game? And here we can get 2 armadillos or a pterodactyl. Jesus Christ. And they drop nothing but quality medicine, man. Pterodactyls are bros, like straight up. So right here we go through this this door, and she says, "Wow, somebody locked me in." Someone locked me in to this room with a smashed window in an abandoned museum. She's like, whatever, not a big deal. Like, that should alarm you, right? That should be a red flag. Instead of thinking rationally, she goes onto this balcony and she just literally jumps. That's what, a good 20 feet? Just falls. She's like, oh, shoo, I made it. I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? I'm thinking compound fractures. I'm thinking broken bones. Nah. None of that. Not even as much as a twisted ankle. So right here, I'm going to heal with actual items as opposed to my... It's very important that you do it like this. Because I need all my Parasite energy, my mana, for this next fight. There's a pretty good chance I'm going to get a Scorpion in this fight. And if I do, I want to be able to energy shot the Raptor so that he dies immediately. And the fight is a little bit easier to manage with just one target. Oh, that was so foolish of me. Scorpions make me so angry. Ah, picked up 3 junk. That was so silly of me. It's okay. So in this fight, you can either get a pterodactyl and an armadillo, or you can get just a crap ton of armadillos, which is so difficult to manage. Those little bastards, they slide around and they move. And the biggest issue with this screen is that it is really hard to judge actual distance, especially when they're further away from the front of the screen, because you don't know if you're actually in range of stuff when it's further away from you like that. Now here we can get a Scorpion as well. It's actually better to actually get the Scorpion because it's faster. This one's a little bit more difficult and slow. But we're going to treat it the same way we would treat the Scorpion fight. Just get rid of one of them so that we have less to micromanage while we're trying to keep them within a certain distance of each other. See, and the gun targets entirely randomly. But for some reason, it really favors shooting at the furthest thing away from you. So right now, I'm just literally waiting for this blindness to wear off because I'm out of items. Alright, perfect. Now this part right here is actually a funny little thing. The most casual players of the game will never actually know exists. If you run to the right here, and then you hold down and right, you actually find a secret elevator And the secret elevator, if you take it to the 4th floor, will give you a shotgun that we utilize for the speed run. It's super, super important. You can't finish the run without it. But that hall is super hard to navigate, and a lot of people don't ever even find out that it's there. So that's something that's just a little Easter egg kind of situation. Like when I was reading the notes, trying to figure out how to learn the run, I could not figure out for the life of me what he was trying to explain until because once you go in the hallway, you can't see which direction you're moving in. It's not easy to figure out. This is such a cool cutscene. Oh man. So now we just have to cross our fingers and hope that we don't get encounters in the next few rooms, but especially in this room right here. Oh no. This one takes forever. Wow. Yeah, it is funny that he does in fact start moving like way before he even gets covered in stuff. It's straight up Night at the Museum, man. It's quite funny. Dan subs. But oh my, wow. Whoa, what poor luck. And an already poor luck run. Usually when you get the M10 and a bunch of encounters in the hospital, the game says, you know what, here's a good museum. Today it's like, nah, nothing, nah, whatever. The good thing is, because we fought so much stuff, there's no way that we won't be properly leveled, and there's no way that we won't have enough ammunition to finish the game. So I guess that's the light at the end of the tunnel. That's the good news. Now I have to make sure that before I start this cutscene, I have 2 inventory spaces, because during the duration of this mashing sequence and cutscene, or whatever, they give you 2 items, and if you're not paying attention, because you have to have the items, you'll sometimes trade it out with stuff that's like really, really good for the items that you get, which are very, very crappy. So just a little fun fact for anybody who doesn't want to have runs ruined because they weren't paying attention. And see, that's one of the things that bothers me about this game. It's like, there's not even background music. Like, at least play some music or something. It's just dead silent while they're talking. once again, just a situation where you see a clamp and you're in here forever mashing. It sucks. Sucks having to deal with this guy. Yeah, I only have like 100 followers, and I was able to get affiliated. Not that it does me any good, but whatever. Nobody wants to watch this game be run for 9 hours. Honestly, I think it has to do with like the frequency of your streams. So like a seasonal or annual marathon or whatever, probably less likely than otherwise. I want to try to pop medicine here. Perfect. Because I don't want to have to I don't want to have to use my mana. Because we're about to fight one of the more fun enemies in the game, which is the oh my god. I have no ammo. How is this possible? Oh man, this is gonna be bad. I'm gonna have to utilize energy shot quite a bit more than I would otherwise, because my ammo count is at a very dangerously low level, and we need ammo to finish day 5. Man, that's so crazy. Just bad luck that we get all these encounters and still no ammunition drops from them. So open up an energy shot here, because energy shot only costs 1 bullet to do 300 damage or whatever. This guy has 2 phases. You want him out of the first phase as fast as possible because he takes reduced damage and does a lot more damage. And when he does that charge move, it's pretty much impossible to dodge. Yay, so that's not bad. So we got 6 ammo from that, thankfully, and we're about to pick up a little bit more. Oh man, this is gonna be close. We might have to kill the T-Rex with the stick, which would be humorous to say in the least. That would be quite funny, actually. I've only ever done that like once. What an unfortunate situation that I found myself in. So the T-Rex has a lot of health. It takes a lot of shots to kill. And right now, a lot of shots is not really something that we have access to. So we'll see how this goes. If you guys have to watch me beat him to death with a stick, you'll be in for a treat. I guarantee you that. It's not easy. this is pretty much the entire fight. He just breathes fire, and you shoot him a bunch and use all your precious, precious ammo. And the reason I don't energy shot like as soon as I have a PE is because based on the amount of your mana, energy shot does a different amount of damage. It's actually a pretty sizable percentage increase by having full mana as opposed to 99.9%. Does a considerable amount more damage, so it's important to wait till it's fully charged. Oh wow, brilliant. So we had enough bullets to finish that fight. I don't know how many bullets we have left. Okay, we'll find out here. But now we switch guns to the M8000. Gotta make sure that I do this correctly. Cool. Oh my goodness. There is actually a couple of enemies we fight here in a second, and they will give you a ton of ammo sometimes. So we gotta really, really hope for that ammo, otherwise I'm not really sure how we're gonna finish one of these fights that's coming up. But improv, that's what we'll do. If we could just not get these encounters, that would be splendid. Oh yeah, I'm already level 33. That's really, really bad. That means we had really bad luck throughout the entirety of this run. Okay, so we didn't get any of the repeat encounters here. So we might actually be able to finish Eve after all without having to beat her to death with a stick. I was kind of actually hoping that I'd have to fight some stuff with a stick. It's pretty entertaining. So this fight, when we finish this fight, they had these monsters have the opportunity to drop like a really, really big amount of ammunition. They can drop like 60. Oh no. We didn't get all of the ammo we needed. Let's see. Oh, this is gonna be super close. This is gonna be so entertaining. I mean, we won't die. And I have revives, so like the run won't die. But we might have to see some really silly on the fly adjustments made that otherwise shouldn't be part of the run. Now right here we actually have 10 minutes of, that's not an overestimate or a joke, that actually 10 minutes of just sitting here doing nothing but mashing and watching cutscenes. And I can't get up and leave and use the bathroom or eat or whatever because the cutscenes are broken up by little mashing sequences. Sometimes a couple of minutes of mashing, sometimes just like 2 lines of text I need to hit through. So it's almost like they knew that one day somebody would be sitting here grinding this out for hours, and they were like, nah, you're gonna use the bathroom, forget about it. That's why I'm currently teaching my 3-year-old how to mash, so that I can just, you know, tap out. She can do all the hard work for me, the heavy lifting. So for anybody who's confused as to why all of a sudden she's just huge and pregnant, it's actually an interesting adaptation that they decided to go with. In the movie and in the book, the husband of the deceased wife that he genetically altered that ended up creating Eve, Eve, and found her old husband, basically had her way with him, and got pregnant, so that she could then create the ultimate being. Her child would be the ultimate being that would take humanity to the next level of evolution. But for some reason, all of the forced sexual encounters, they were left out of the game. One day you just show up, and you're like, and she's like pregnant. You know what I mean? Happens to the best of us, honestly. No, that's it's insinuated, right? It's like one scene she's not pregnant, next scene she's pregnant. Maybe she's asexual. I don't know. It kind of leaves it up to you. Whereas in the movie, in the books, it was explicitly stated and covered in grave detail. So the translation, the sexual part didn't really follow over when the game was made. Don't ask me why. I don't know. The game is already M for mature, I'm pretty sure. So I guess they maybe they couldn't do it justice. It was too artistic. I don't know. I have seen the movie actually, and no, it's not. It's terrible. It's dreadful. But if you've played the game, like I watched it just to kind of see like how they intertwine story-wise. I was just interested in like kind of where the information was coming from. So it was interesting in that regard. Like it was cool to watch and be like, oh yeah, see I know this. But the movie itself, just terrible. It's on YouTube. You can watch the entire movie on YouTube. It's in like 240p, but you can watch it for free on YouTube, and it is a hoot, to say in the least. It's obviously in all Japanese, so you got to read subtitles. But I want you to imagine like the worst 90s CGI has to offer, subtitles, and this game. You know, like just look at this game. If that doesn't excite you, if you're not sold, the soundtrack's actually not bad. But at the same time, if you've played the game, yeah, same thing with me. It's just kind of cool to watch it, to see that, to kind of see where, you know, the similarities and stuff lie. And technically, the movie or the book, whatever you prefer to use as your entertainment. I don't remember what I was talking about. Sorry, I looked at my phone for 5 seconds. But yeah, the movie and the book are cool, and they're technically supposed to be the prequel. That's what I was gonna say. It kind of works in like a prequel situation. And in the game, they actually have a whole bunch of points where they reference the book or they reference the movie, give little shout-outs. A lot of the songs from this game were actually on the soundtrack for the movie as well. If you weren't paying attention, I'll explain to you what just happened. They just came and got this completely untrained police officer. And they said, hey, listen, we need you to go completely without any help. Don't even wear a seatbelt. Jump into this helicopter you have no experience with flying. And go fire missiles in the middle of New York. And she did. And she does it well. Because for whatever reason, the missiles she fires does a lot different stuff than the missiles everybody else fired. I don't know. It's gonna be really interesting seeing what seeing how this fight goes now. The ammo, but I am using the M8000, which uses less ammunition to do the same amount of damage as the micro Uzi would. So I should be alright. I was just thinking about it. And all we have to do is make it through this one fight, and then where there's a spot we can get a bunch of ammo. So we don't have to worry about it for the last little leg of the game. And this is one of the situations where you can kind of see the Final Fantasy VII influence on the game. Eve starts to look very Genova-ish. Like when you're about to see her here in a second, she looks like a Final Fantasy boss. Where they just have like all these limbs and growths all over them for absolutely no reason. Just a bunch of weird shapes glued together. Then she jumps out of this helicopter that she has no idea how to fly. Never done it a day in her life. Parachutes flawlessly onto a small little island. Who knows what happens to the helicopter? Nobody's sure. It just disappears. And there she is. Just a polymorphous blob. Little spiral tail. I like the little corkscrew tail. This fight is actually pretty annoying. It's really, really hard to die at this fight, but like I've done it before. I'm not afraid to admit. She has this. She will grab you if you're too close to her, and she will confuse you, which makes all of your D-pad movement, well, your movement in general, completely random. Like if you go left, sometimes you'll go up, sometimes you'll go down, sometimes you'll go pretty much every direction but left. So it really sucks to get grabbed by her. But usually the fight's pretty quick because we have because our gun now fires and hits multiple targets. So that is nice. So we cast haste right off the bat because haste is pretty unique in the fact that not only does it increase your that's bad, your firing rate, but it also increases your movement speed. So it, I'm confused. So in theory, it should make it easier to dodge stuff, but it doesn't matter how fast you move when you're confused, because you're just gonna go random directions anyways. When she jumps to the middle like that, it means that she is just about to die. And then we go to phase 2, which we get to use Liberate, which is the coolest ability in the game. If you ever watched the anime Claymore, the ability Liberate in this game reminds me a lot of that anime. It does a stupid amount of damage, and you can't be damaged while you're using it. So it's pretty stupid, pretty broke. But man, do I love watching it happen. It's really cool. She should be dead with this Liberate. But maybe not. It'll be close. Liberate does about 1,750 damage. She has about 2,200 health, but I think I did an appropriate amount of damage before using Liberate, but I won't have to fire any more bullets at her. Cool. Nice, she's dead. Parasite leave. I'm actually really impressed that I haven't heard a lot of puns up until this point. It's a pretty common thing in a lot of my runs. Parasite leave, people making mitochondria jokes. It's quality material because, you know, the game is lacking quality material in and of itself. And now we move on to the very last day, day 6, which consists of pretty much nothing but boss fights. Shots fired, yeah, that's right. You watched during Shots Fired? Yeah. Shots Fired was definitely the most puntastic, mitochondria-filled evening I'd had in a long time. I had a blast doing that. It's also worth noting we made it through with ammo, so I don't know how much ammo we have now. I'll go ahead and check. But I worried for no reason. Continued for a few days after the run. Oh goodness. So we were good. We have plenty of ammo. But we do need to pick some up now. It's not enough to make it to the rest of the game. This dude hooks it up. He gives you 90 ammo and 2 medicine 4s. Dope. So now all we have to do is kill 4 bosses. It's usually pretty easy. I'm actually the only runner in this game currently, or I guess at all actually, that uses the strategy you're gonna see here in a little bit. Everybody else uses a different one, and I have no idea why. I feel like this one is just much it's no question, it's way safer. You make it through by using a lot less ammo, taking a lot less damage, and if you get good luck, it's about 10 seconds faster. If you get bad luck, it's about 5 seconds slower than the traditional route. But there's not as much inconsistency. Like when I was doing, like I was on great pace in a lot of runs, world record pace, PB pace, and I would die like on these bosses right here at the end because one of them is just super inconsistent. And I was like, there's gotta be a more consistent way to do this. So I came up with this other strategy just so that I would stop dying all the time. And now that I've kind of like worked out the kinks and figured it out, it's actually quite quick and very simple. And I don't know if maybe everybody's just so used to doing it the old way or what, but for some reason I'm the only one who does it. I can't remember if I had started doing it during shots fired, if you would have seen me do it then. It's one of the more recent strategies I've started implementing. Same thing with the frost bullets. The frost bullets was really recent. Here we go, just time for some baby rage. Kill 4 bosses, we run around a little bit. Yeah, I know, right? Consistency. Not dying. Like, not throwing away runs that are world record pace 5 minutes before the game's over. Man, everybody else is crazy. That's what that's got to be it. So I mentioned earlier, you're going to see me utilize taking some contact damage in order to dodge a really hard-hitting attack. I'm going to do that here, if he decides to do it. If we see him fall to the ground, I got to stand right on top of him. Nope. Okay. So he died before he could do it. That's fine. So this next fight that we're about to do now, this is where I have the new strategy. Instead of chasing him around and whatnot, I just use Liberate so that I can't be damaged. But there is a certain amount of luck involved. We need 4 of the Liberate attacks to hit the body on the ground. Four of 7. 2. So now we're 2 and 2. Oh, it's gonna be close. Oh no, that's bad. So he's gonna jump to the center. He should be only like 1 or 2 shots away from death. So still faster and safer than the traditional strategy for this fight. There we go. Jay is my hero. Take it easy, my dude. Yeah, it's nice seeing you again, man. Hopefully I catch you in a stream or the next marathon. Have a good night. Fortunately enough, I'm about to just play straight balls to the wall because I have 2 revives. And so I'm just going to play mad aggressive here. We need to get basically 7 shots off on this guy. Brilliant. Now he should be dead. Bootleg Frieza. That's true. Legend of Dragoon. For sure. He does remind me. He reminds me actually of what is it? Something from like one of the Prometheus movies or something like that. Some science fiction film. Oh, so he wasn't quite dead. But we have one more boss. Giant puff. Oh, goodness. And then his 4th and final form is this giant stingray looking thing. Don't ask me how it works. I don't know. But this is the last boss before we are done. And then I have to do some running around, and then it'll be time. So we're nearing the home stretch. Cool, brilliant. Now get ready for one of the dopest cutscenes in video game history. If you didn't think Daniel was slick already, you just wait. You just watch this and you bask in just how epic this is. The dude literally jumps out of a helicopter, catches fire, throws a perfect Aaron Rodgers spiral, and then lands in the water in time to douse himself. So that, like, come on, man, that's the dopest shit you've ever seen. Alright, so no more fighting. Okay, so now I'm going to have to actually pay really close attention, because the only way for you to lose the game at this point is to screw this next part up. And it happens sometimes to great runners. I've done it, Primus has done it. A lot of the really good runners have screwed this up on accident. I actually had a clip where it glitched and almost lost me the run on my world record pace, like insane run. It was almost lost because it glitched out here, and I'll explain kind of how it works as I do it. So we're going to run through a series of screens here, and when we do, if you accidentally move backwards to a screen you've already been on, or you let this guy catch up to you, the game's over and you die, and that's it. Now, I've had in the clip that got popular or whatever, one of the screens didn't load, so it almost moved me to this previous screen without me even doing anything. It's wild. So it's kind of worth taking your time here. The music doesn't help. Gives me bad anxiety. She says some cheeky shit, some little one-liners. She says, "Hey, guess what? We're in Hell's Kitchen." She rigs the place to blow. But for some reason, this naval warship has a self-destruct button. Yay, we did it! And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Parasite Eve. Now, the rest of the game is just mashing until you get your in-game time at the end, but it's irrelevant. I don't do anything else after this point, besides tap X a few times. That's it. Shit blows up. You outran him. In the clip, it was funny. I was really, really ahead. It was the best run I've ever done by far. And when I went to climb up that ladder, she didn't continue climbing up the ladder. She kind of froze and it kind of lagged out. And on the next screen, it had me moving as if she was still trying to climb up the ladder. So she was moving up, and it literally was about 2 or 3 steps, if that, of progressing to the previous screen and losing me that record. And then, to make it worse, 2 screens later, the same kind of weird little lag glitch thing happened again. So twice within like 6 screens, I almost threw away the easiest run ever. It was oh man, it was rough. Yeah, the second and the third, I probably will never play. Parasite Eve 2 is very Resident Evil-ish. I'm not a big, huge Resident Evil fan. And the third birthday is like if you're a part of the Parasite Eve community, we just pretend that game never existed. But you got about a minute and a half or 2 minutes before I call time, so that I can stay kind of close to the estimate. We won't watch the entire credits. We'll just watch the little ending scene before the credits, because the credits take forever. Yeah. Second is they were like, hey, this game didn't sell well. We were going for a Resident Evil, competitor, and let's make the second Parasite Eve more like Resident Evil. So it's nothing like this game whatsoever. And then the third birthday, better known as its other name, the Turd Birthday, is a PSP only. And you know something when it goes straight to PSP. Nobody has any faith in that doing well. So, in very... Yeah, yeah, you know, that's something I've mentioned and laughed about many a times. Everyone in the background are like, they're like just pre-rendered statues, man. It cracks me up. It's like they turned up the opacity a little bit on like some stock photos. Oh, it kills me. It's like, it's never been easier to spot the main characters. Like, that just looks awful. Oh, but 1997, what are you gonna do? Speaking of which, December this year will be the 20th anniversary of this game. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. Probably like some kind of elaborate 24-hour stream. I actually considered doing the entire run with nothing but like the club and like different clubs. So I might do that then. That would be a good time to do that. But if any of you guys have any ideas, definitely let me know. Like what I could do to make it an interesting Parasite Eve run, other than what is already being done, which is so interesting. But yeah, 20 years of this game, just killing it. Yeah, and it's funny, it's like, all these people burst into flames 6 days ago, while you were performing this exact play in this exact theater. Like, what stage manager is going to be like, you know what? I got an idea. We'll do the same thing. And that's it. That's literally the whole plan. We're just going to do the same play. And we'll even incorporate fire that was previously not even a part of the show. So now we got a flaming torch. Right after you see, you're gonna see a little cutscene here. Right as everybody's eyes turn red and it fades to black, you can go ahead and do time. So I'll say something about it, but just a heads up. And if everybody's wondering why the ending is so open-ended, it's because there is actually a true ending, which is done in the Chrysler Building. Time. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Parasite Eve. We came really close to the estimate, so that's good. We actually made up a really substantial amount of time in that last split, not gonna lie. Thank you guys again so much for letting me be a part of this. It was a pleasure. It always is. Thank you everybody for sticking around at this late hour and watching and donating. That's super dope of everybody to do, obviously, for a great cause. On to the next. Good luck to the rest of the runners. I am Professor Palmer. Take it easy, guys.